Is there ever really a good time to talk about rape? Not really. But today, I want you to join me for an important conversation with Aishah Shahidah Simmons, the writer, producer, director, and the force behind No, the Rape documentary. Rape is a universal problem affecting millions of women and men, and likely someone you know. But rape does not have to continue unchallenged. Today on In Depth with Konyka Dunson, we're going to lift the veil of silence and shame and talk about the very real possibility of ending rape. Welcome to In Depth with Konyka Dunson. We're here with Aishah Shahidah Simmons, the award-winning writer, director, and producer of No, the Rape documentary. She's won numerous awards, including the Visionary Award from the DC Rape Crisis Center, and has traveled all over the world to colleges, churches, and prisons to raise awareness and bring change. Welcome, Aishah.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I am so glad that you're finally here. This has been a long time in the making.
It has.
And when I first met you at the screening, the DC screening of No, I was really struck by the idea that there really could be the end of rape, instead of this idea that it's something that's going to always occur unchallenged. It's just part of society. And after seeing the film and listening to you speak, I thought, we can actually change things. What made you say, I'm going to make this film? Why No, the Rape documentary?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a survivor. I use the word survivor, not victim, of rape and incest. And I know more women who are survivors of sexual violence. And I realized that there weren't a lot of visual resources, documentaries that specifically focused on the lives of African American women. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to lift those voices and look at why there's so much silence in our community. I mean, there's silence in all communities, but I really wanted to look at sexual violence in the community from which I come from. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I couldn't even talk about sexual violence present day without looking at it historically, in terms of from the time we were brought over as slaves, as enslaved African people, and just looking at the history of interracial rape and the impact of racism, the lynching of black men, how all these horrific realities in our lives, as collective realities in our lives as a people, has played a role in the present day reality of silence in our community around sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. Why you first started off and you said that you wanted a visual. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's so important for audiences, for people to see a visual of rape?
Mm-hmm. Well, there have been many writers who have written about rape and mm-hmm. sexual violence, and mm-hmm. powerful. I mean, they've influenced me in terms mm-hmm. of from being a filmmaker. But we're definitely moving in. We are in an age where people are consuming images much more than they are consuming words. And I do believe that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a moving image is worth 1,000,000 words. And so for people to really see and hear the voices and testimonies of women who have been sexually violated, to see and hear images of black men who've been lynched for just erroneous charges, mm-hmm. Images and acting, if you will, because I did narrative vignettes of what happened during enslavement with enslaved black women, that I thought that it was really important, because a lot of times we don't have visuals of what has happened to us as black people in this country. I mean, mm-hmm. a lot of the images are filled with stereotypes of our existence here, and I really mm-hmm. wanted to have visuals. I really thought it was important to have, for people to see black women and men as experts, as survivors, and as agents for change.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the juxtaposition of rape and lynching. I think when we talk about rape often, or even lynching, I don't necessarily hear people bring those two realities together in present day or historically mm-hmm, to make mm-hmm. the connection. Tell me more about that.
Well, at the turn of the 20th century, I mean, black men, at the end of enslavement and during Reconstruction, and then definitely during the whole Jim Crow era, there was this need to control black people, specifically in black people, period. But one of the ways in which they did it was through controlling black men mm-hmm. in terms of wealth, in terms of any sense of success, if you will. And in one of the ways in which they would do it was to accuse black men of raping white women. And what would happen is that during those accusations, black men would be brutally murdered, and then their bodies would be tortured, and these would be picnics for many white members in communities.
And the picnics, the people would come and watch,
and then
have a picnic,
literally a picnic, and then they would buy pieces, like buy bones, buy pieces of hair. I mean, it was very barbaric. We talk about terrorism today. There were terrorist acts on the black community. In terms of the connection with rape, is that Ida Wells Barnett, who's an African American woman, just a major anti-lynching crusader, really challenged the racist notions around sexual violence. I mean, the racist notions around lynching, because her whole framework was basically to challenge this notion that black men were raping and sexually assaulting women, and yet black women were being raped without recourse by white men, and no one was brought to justice. So really wanting to kind of make those links, because now what happens present day is that there's all this discussion around like when black women come forward now about sexual violence that they've experienced at the hands of black men, it's like, oh, how are you going to lynch another brother? And I really want us to look at this historically and say, not that I advocate any form of lynching, but no black man was ever lynched for raping or sexually assaulting a black woman. They were lynched for raping and sexually allegedly raping and sexually assaulting white women. And black women were at the forefront of the anti-lynching movement. So, you know, really just to kind of bring that history to light, because there's this notion that black women are traitors to the race. And black women have been, since the time we've been brought over here as enslaved people, we've been fighting for racial liberation side by side with black men.
And you say traitors to the race in bringing this issue to the forefront about rape. And I think it's interesting that you make that juxtaposition, because you see that the lynching is a form of control, and then you see rape is also a form of control. I really like the historical grounding, because it presents like a continuation of a same movement of ending the racial violence and the sexual violence. It's all part of the same struggle. We're here with Aishah Shahidah Simmons, the director of No. We're going to come right back and talk more about the personal stories of women that are revealed in this groundbreaking documentary. Stay with us.